Marvel Rivals Season 6 is here, so between the weekly updates, 2 more characters, and a brand new battle pass, we've got plenty of new content to cover as I continue my journey to read every comic that inspired a Rivals skin. We kick it off in the 40s with Captain America Comics #1. A group of government men have just arrived at a shop, the old lady inside pulling out a gun before realizing who the men are, taking off her mask to reveal she's actually Agent X-13, bringing them into a basement where a scrawny Steve Rogers is injected with a new serum, turning him into a super soldier, as one of the men watching starts firing at the scientist who invented the serum, Steve beating the hell out of the spy before throwing him into a bunch of electrical cables which instantly kill him. We then cut ahead as Steve becomes Captain America, hanging out at his army base, when a young Bucky Barnes accidentally walks into his tent, discovering that Steve is Cap, him making a deal with the kid to become his sidekick Bucky in return for him keeping Cap's identity a secret. The rest of the comic is then a bunch of random disconnected stories, like them fighting a psychic who predicts bombings by planting the bombs himself, along with the first appearance of the original Red Skull. We get another classic skin 2 decades later in Tales of Suspense #39. The millionaire inventor Tony Stark is at a US Army base in Vietnam, demonstrating his new transistors, which can massively boost the power of anything they're attached to. Unfortunately, the nearby town is taken over by Wong Chu, forcing Tony to run away until he accidentally steps on a trap, causing an explosion that launches shrapnel into his heart. Wong Chu then capturing Tony and forcing him to spend his final days building them weapons, though he does send another prisoner, Yinsen, in to help Tony. The duo working together to build a suit of armor that can stop the shrapnel from killing Tony. Before they're able to power it on though, an alarm goes off, warning them that Wong Chu is approaching, Yinsen deciding to sacrifice himself to allow Tony enough time to complete the Mark I Iron Man armor, stumbling around the room a bit before using some suction cups to hide on the ceiling, causing Wong Chu to attempt to rally his army to find the missing prisoner. But Tony hijacks the speaker system, telling the soldiers to run away, and allowing him to easily beat the shit out of Wong Chu, though he starts to run away, ordering the execution of the remaining prisoners, forcing Tony to blow the base up, allowing them all to escape. We get a third Year 1 skin in Tomb of Dracula #10. A couple has just arrived in America, though they're suddenly attacked by some vampires, as the vampire hunter Blade arrives to save them, easily killing the vampires. But it turns out one of them was just a teenager. A few other vampire hunters showing up, getting pissed off at Blade for killing a kid, along with mentioning that he just ruined their only lead on Dracula. But he claims he can easily find Dracula all by himself, donning a diving suit, as we cut to a yacht filled with a bunch of vaguely important people. Dracula just casually showing up to the party. Well, it starts casual, but he very quickly decides to seduce the owner's girlfriend, before biting her along with killing the ship's captain, announcing to everyone on board that they're gonna become his slaves, otherwise he'll kill them. Though one of them pulls out a cross, which hurts Dracula. The rest of them immediately dogpiling on him, but his powers easily let him slip out, as Blade finally arrives on the boat, getting into a fight that Dracula ends up winning, though the woman from earlier wanders out, declaring her love for him, and I guess he doesn't want to deal with that because he sets off a bunch of explosives, flying away as Blade starts pushing guests off the boat, which explodes as the comic ends. Jumping into the 90s, we get Uncanny X-Men #269. Rogue has just dived into a mysterious portal known as the Siege Perilous to escape Master Mold, her entire body being torn apart and rebuilt atom by atom, suddenly appearing in the X-Men's Australian base, though she quickly notices Val Cooper on the news announcing that Mystique has just died. Rogue panicking and trying to fly out the window, but she ends up falling, realizing that the X-Men's base has been taken over by the mutant-hating Reavers. And if it couldn't get any worse, Miss Marvel appears, pissed off that she spent the past few years stuck inside Rogue's mind. As it turns out, the Siege Perilous had separated them, Rogue immediately running away, discovering the mutant Gateway, though he won't respond to her, so she steals his powers, along with his skin color, which I don't think she's ever done in any other comic, which allows her to open a portal that Carol slips into at the last second. The comic then briefly cuts to a Shi'ar spaceship, as Lila Cheney gets into a fight with the guards, causing them to blast a hole in the ship, which she dives out of, using her powers to teleport away as we cut to Miss Marvel, who ended up on Muir Island, though Moira and the mutants just start beating the shit out of her, Legion apologizing before being torn apart by the Shadow King, who tries to reach into Carol's mind, before we finally cut back to Rogue, the portal having sent her to the Savage Land, ending up completely trapped there as she no longer has Carol's flying powers, losing track of time as we get our Savage South skin. She eventually goes searching for Kazar, discovering a destroyed village the X-Men once saved, as she's randomly attacked by a dying Miss Marvel, trying to absorb Rogue, as apparently the Siege Perilous only created enough life force for one of them, nearly succeeding until she's suddenly shot in the back. The comic ends by cutting to Sauron's old citadel, as Rogue wakes up chained to a machine, noticing Magneto. We get our newest character in New Mutants number 98, kicking it off with the mutant Gideon training against a horde of robots, easily destroying them all before asking his assistant if they've sent someone to deal with Emmanuel DaCosta, as the comic cuts to Cable trying to train Cannonball to keep his powers silent, though he isn't quite able to do it, getting into a brief argument with Cable about how most of the team is either gone or dead. We then cut again to Emmanuel DaCosta, his assistant delivering a coffee, which turns out to be poison. Cutting back to the New Mutants HQ, where Boom Boom and Richter are arguing about whether they need to go save their teammate Wolfsbane from Genosha, as Cable is suddenly attacked by Deadpool, mentioning that someone named Mr. Tulliver has hired him to kill Cable, though it turns out Cannonball's training came in handy, silently using his powers to sucker punch Deadpool in the back. Unfortunately for the kid, he came prepared, launching a net at Cannonball before throwing a knife into Cable's leg, as the rest of the team shows up, Deadpool also being prepared for them, throwing a rope around Richter's neck before anticipating Sunspot's reckless attack. But suddenly, he just falls over, as Domino had stabbed him in the back, mentioning that Cable had called her. The duo then check out former New Mutants members they could recruit, as Richter decides to go save Wolfsbane alone. The comic ending with Gideon telling Sunspot his father Emmanuel is dead. We get a weirdly inaccurate skin in Captain America number 405. Steve Rogers has been kidnapped, being injected with some mysterious substance, as he suddenly transforms into Catwolf, knocking his kidnappers out of the way as he desperately tries to escape, grabbing a nearby shiny thing while he barely manages to keep his thoughts coherent, bursting out the front door and running off into the woods. His kidnappers then transform a bunch of nearby civilians into werewolves as well, sending them after Cap as we briefly cut to his ex-fiancée Bernadette, walking through Central Park with Jarvis and a brain-damaged D-Man. Jarvis leaving as her purse is suddenly stolen, begging Dennis to stop the guy, though he just stands there glossy-eyed, deciding to go chase the thief herself, but she isn't able to catch him, and by the time she gets back to where Dennis was, he's gone. We then cut to Dr. Druid as he arrives at the werewolf church, inspecting the place before being challenged by their leader, Dreadman, getting into a psychic mind battle, Druid quickly realizing that a nearby gem is boosting Dreadman's powers, and attempting to telekinetically lift an object to destroy the gem, but Dreadman notices when Druid splits his concentration, taking the opportunity to win the mind battle, as we finally cut back to Catwolf, getting caught by the civilian werewolves, though he still contains enough of Steve's morals to stop himself from killing them, as Wolverine randomly appears, attacking Cap without saying anything, forcing him to defend himself. Unfortunately, the more he fights, the more he loses control of his thoughts, chucking Wolverine into the civilian werewolves as he runs back into the town, getting spotted by Moonhunter, who throws his lasso around Cap, but he doesn't even notice and just drags the villain through town, eventually arriving back at the woman who turned him into a werewolf for offering him a deal. We get our upcoming character in Bloodstone number 1, starting on a plane as Elsa Bloodstone and her mother Elise are flying to the Bloodstone estate, as Elsa's father Ulysses has recently died, passing the mansion down to her, his assistant Mr. Barnabas showing them around the place, as a voice whispers from another room, begging for some supersized McDonald's. It's then revealed that Elsa has no idea what her father did for a living, her mother specifically asking Barnabas not to tell her, as they decide to go stay with some neighbors, because Barnabas claims the mansion needs to air out, the neighbors mentioning that the Bloodstone estate is haunted as Elsa falls asleep, having a recurring dream about waking up in a coffin before easily beating the shit out of a horde of vampires, setting their base on fire before diving out a window, quickly realizing they were on a Zeppelin as she wakes up, heading to investigate the mansion a bit more, and accidentally setting off a secret door, leading to a basement filled with ancient artifacts, suddenly being attacked by a bunch of zombie dust bunnies, though they're scared off by the estate's caretaker, Adam. He then reveals to her that her father was a monster hunter, handing her a choker with a jewel on it that bites her, mentioning it's nice to finally have a Bloodstone back in the house, as a nearby lamp starts to flash, Elsa grabbing it and mentioning that she wishes she knew why it was flashing, randomly disappearing before Adam says she shouldn't have used the word wish. The comic ending with Elsa appearing in a forest surrounded by dead soldiers, suddenly noticing Dracula, who'd been trapped inside the lamp. We get possibly the most unique skin in the game in Thor number 5. Asgard has been destroyed by Ragnarok, though Thor has rebuilt it in Oklahoma, a mailman arriving at the castle and constructing a mailbox so he can deliver a letter, Thor grabbing it as it turns out to be an invitation to a local town hall meeting. The comic then cutting ahead to Heimdall searching for the missing Asgardian gods, as they were all reborn on Earth after Ragnarok, mentioning to Thor that there's an area nearby that seems to be shrouding itself from his view, Thor heading out to investigate and discovering an underground bunker bunker filled with prisoners. A woman claiming she knows Thor. Unfortunately, he also finds the Destroyer, the two of them getting into a massive battle, briefly cutting inside of Thor's mind as he discusses the situation with Donald Blake, deciding to force the Destroyer out of the bunker, though it mentions that it isn't the Destroyer, Thor is, blasting him with a laser as he flies into the sky, summoning enough lightning to easily fry the machine, along with awakening the memories of all the trapped Asgardians, as it's revealed that Thor's brother Balder had been reborn inside of the Destroyer, getting a little pissed off at Thor for causing Ragnarok in the first place, as he heads back into the bunker checking on the woman who claimed to know him, as he assumes it must be his lover Sif, but it's actually Lady Loki, mentioning that Ragnarok has given her a chance at rebirth, claiming she's done scheming and simply wants to live a happy life, Thor giving her a single chance to prove she's telling the truth. We then cut ahead as Loki talks to Dr. Doom, mentioning that in Thor's panic to stop the Destroyer, he didn't quite check all the prisoners he freed, showing a montage of evil Asgardian gods hiding across Earth. The comic ending with Volstagg and a bunch of Asgardians arriving at the local town hall meeting. We've already got a skin for our newest character in Wolverine Road to Hell #1. Now, this comic was meant to advertise a bunch of upcoming storylines, like Daken Dark Wolverine and Generation Hope, but our story starts as Wolverine has just recruited Phantom X to join the new secret X-Force team, the duo flying to X-Force's base, as he questions why Wolverine recruited him, Logan responding that Phantom X is a man without purpose, programmed by Weapon Plus to be the best super spy / assassin, and then just set free into the world, claiming he's giving him the chance to be what he was always meant to be, as they finally arrive at Cavern X, where Psylocke and Angel are waiting, the group sitting down to eat some sandwiches, as Logan questions where's the degenerate, Angel mentioning that he sent him to Egypt to keep him busy, the comic cutting to Deadpool wearing his new X-Force costume, claiming that a high homeless guy directed him towards a supervillain hideout, running into a pigeon lady and getting into a brief fight, as Phantom X questions what X-Force does beyond eating sandwiches, Logan responding that they just keep their eyes open. The story ending with Deadpool using the pigeon lady's staff to discover a mysterious hidden cave. We get my new favorite holiday special in Daredevil #7. Matt Murdock has volunteered for a field trip with a bunch of blind students. The bus ride going great, until a deer jumps into the road, causing the driver to swerve off a cliff as Matt is knocked out, quickly cutting to him examining a Fantastic Four logo, Foggy opening his door and mentioning that the party is waiting for him, Matt stepping out in his I'm Not Daredevil shirt, getting into a conversation with Kirsten McDuffie where he talks about the upcoming field trip, and how he hopes it'll help the blind kids learn that experiencing new things won't hurt them, as we cut back to Matt waking up in the crashed bus, quickly noticing that the driver is dead. He then tells the kids to gather around the bus for safety, but part of it explodes, deciding to use his cane cables to get the kids in a line as they head off into the woods, Matt mentioning how much he hates weather as he can barely sense his surroundings in all the snow. The kids then start freaking out about the bus driver leaving them, so Matt tries to calm them down by screaming at them, which weirdly enough doesn't help, apologizing as he starts to ask them what they want for Christmas, managing to slightly cheer them up, as we cut ahead to Matt having lost most of the feeling in his body and not even being sure if they're going in a straight line anymore. He also realizes he's lost one of the kids, backtracking through the path to find them, as it turns out one of the other kids had pushed him for being too slow, Matt attempting to give them a heroic locker room speech to inspire them, but apparently those don't work on terrified blind children. Luckily, he hears a truck in the distance, telling the kids to scream for help, though the driver isn't able to hear them, so he tells the kids to start running in the hopes they can make it before he drives off. Unfortunately, Matt forgot to tell the blind children why they were screaming. They all end up running in completely random directions, Matt trying to stop them, though he ends up slipping down a hill, the kids asking him what they do next as he just lies there, claiming he'll figure it out, as the kids start collecting nearby sticks, building a sled to drag Matt, as it turns out the truck had been parked in front of a farmhouse, the group breaking in so they can call the cops. The comic ending with a grave-marked Murdoch suddenly being dug up. Call me the Watcher the way I'm pondering What If Thor #1. Kicking it off in Jotunheim, as Odin battles Laufey, the king of the frost giants. Now, normally, Odin would win, he'd adopt Loki, and the heroes would be victorious, but this isn't one of those stories. Laufey proceeding to burst into Odin's palace, ordering the execution of every Asgardian, except Freya and her son, Thor, locking him in a dungeon where he ends up meeting Loki, both bonding over the fact they don't fit in with frost giant society. Loki gifting Thor a necklace as we cut ahead to the new brothers being sent on a hunting mission by Laufey. Loki attempting to trick the beast by going invisible, but it can still smell him, nearly killing him, until Thor spears its mouth open, shocking it from the inside, and denouncing himself as Prince of Winter. Laufey mentioning how proud he is, showing off the Ice Crusher hammer, which might one day get passed down to Thor. Loki getting jealous and disappearing, wandering off into a dungeon where he discovers Freya. The two immediately getting along as she helps him train his magical abilities. The story then jumping a few years ahead as Laufey forces Thor to battle one of his old friends, which Thor easily wins, finally being gifted the Ice Crusher. Loki then shows up, which excites Thor as it's been a long time since they've hung out, though he mentions that their father wants them to march on Muspelheim to defeat Surtur's army, which prompts Loki to help Freya escape from the dungeon. The duo heading to what's left of Asgard to revive the Bifrost, but Laufey catches them, Loki stabbing him in the eye, which pisses off the now blue god of winter, Thor, blasting Loki with a frost ray as Freya dives in front of him, instantly dying, as Loki mentions that Thor just killed his own mother, which just ends up pissing Thor off even more, screaming that they were meant to be brothers, as Loki claims he just wanted to go his own path in life, Thor deciding to spare him, allowing him to escape to Midgard. The comic ends by revealing Loki was telling the entire story to his children on Earth, as he opens his front door, noticing the necklace he made Thor on the ground. We get a skin that I feel like shouldn't even count on Fantastic Four number 23, and I chose my words very carefully there, as our skin doesn't appear in this comic at all. Invisible Woman's Prism Parade outfit only appearing on an alternate variant cover for the comic. We get the first wordless comic I've covered in over 6 months, as we hop into It's Jeff Infinity Comic number 37. And our final skin is one I actually asked for in my wishlist video, appearing in Ultimate Universe 1 year in, number 1. Kicking it off as Keith Kincaid is hanging out with his family. Some narration mentioning that he's actually a terrorist, as last Tuesday he drunkenly claimed that the Ultimates might have a point, immediately being blasted with a sky laser and dying in front of his family, as we cut to the hand helicarrier, known as the Beast, which is run by Nick Fury. But he actually doesn't want to run it anymore. The narration mentioning that this is his final confession, walking through the Beast to meet up with the Council, a secret group that the Maker assembled to control the world, including Captain Britain, Emmanuel DaCosta, the Rasputin, Sunfire, Ra and Khonshu, and the Hulk. Fury giving them a briefing on how the Hand is doing everything they can to ruin the Ultimates' reputation, painting them as terrorists. Omega Red asking why they haven't just found the Ultimates' home and killed them yet. Nick responding that they're working on it, which pisses off the Council, confused why he even assembled them when he has no new information to share. Though he does say he has one last thing to show them, revealing that he sent undercover agents across the world disguised as potential Ultimate recruits, which just ends up pissing off the Council even more, as he sent agents into their continents without telling them, which then starts an even bigger argument as Fury claims there might be a spy in the Council, as Fury's narration finally decides to answer the question, why'd he do it, claiming that everything he's done was for the greater good. He genocided the Inhuman population for the greater good. He personally murdered Power Pack for the greater good. He crippled Hank Pym for the greater good. He's given his life for the greater good, and he's ready to do it one last time, initiating the Beast's self-destruct sequence, before pointing a gun at the Council, going on a monologue about how the Ultimates might just have a chance of fixing the world after the Council is gone. The countdown reaching 1 as nothing happens. The Council breaking out into laughter, mentioning that they barely last a year anymore, asking Nick if he created a confession this time, as he fires at them. Magic blocking the bullets before Fury starts to freak the fuck out. Emmanuel setting him on fire, burning alive as the ghosts of his past come back to haunt him. Captain Britain questioning why the Maker even allows Fury to keep doing this. Emmanuel responding that it just makes him smile, as they walk into a room filled with clones of Nick Fury. The comic ends by cutting to another confession, this one by a high-ranking scientist in the Rasputin's government, mentioning that they found a unique specimen who took an Omega-level telepath to control, deciding to enhance him, turning a man into a weapon, claiming that they called him Logan once, then the specimen, but now he's the Winter Soldier. And that's it, kind of. I know some of you are already thinking, but wait, Yogurt, what about Storm's wedding skin? You didn't include Black Panther's wedding skin. And to that I say, yeah, I did leave them out of the video, because I literally just covered their appearance in my last video. So if you want to see T'Challa and Aurora's wedding, along with every other Rivals character's wedding, check out that video. Otherwise, the comments are open if you want to scream at me for technically not including every skin.